Hi, everyone. This session is called the Chaos Incarnated Micro-Quarkus Boot, and I'm going to deliver this. So first, a bit of an introduction of who I am. I've been working as a software engineer for around 15 years already. And well, you will not find this on LinkedIn or my CV, but I have been a front-end developer, I have been a full-stack developer, and finally I decided to specialize in being a back-end developer, focused on Java. And well, this is one of the reasons why I'm here talking about the Java ecosystem. And the idea is that I want to talk a bit about how Java has evolved in the past few years or decades, and what could be the future of Java, and how different competitors, frameworks, libraries in the Java ecosystem are helping design and innovate how Java is evolving. So first of all, when you start a new project right now in Java, obviously you're not going to use only Java. Vanilla Java is very powerful and it can be very helpful, and it can give you a lot of tools and a lot of features and a lot of things that you can use to build your applications. But usually you put on top of that Java, you put some libraries or frameworks, like, I don't know, maybe you're using Spring or Spring Boot, maybe you're using some Apache, Wildfly. There's a lot of these frameworks, libraries, tools, depending on which one you choose, they're going to use a different definition. And they have been on the Java ecosystem, some of them for a long time, some of them for a shorter time. But these kind of frameworks and tools have helped evolve the Java ecosystem for a long time. And this is something that does not only happen in Java. This is something that has happened also in different languages. Like, for example, many of you may know the JavaScript environment, the web environment. 20 years ago, on the web environment, everyone was using jQuery, for example. jQuery was top. It was a library that everybody used to build their websites. This was before, I don't know, before React, before Vue, before any other libraries, before Angular. And at some point, that helped developers experiment how they could do better websites, better web applications. And that jQuery library became kind of a standard that now is kind of incorporated into the JavaScript vanilla. So you can say that the way people have used frameworks and libraries have designed and evolved how the language below it has evolved, has innovated, has advanced. That is a good thing. And that has also happened in Java. There's a lot of things that have been incorporated into Java that come from frameworks, from experiments that were successful and were good in frameworks and libraries. And that's a good thing. But also, there's a bad thing on this kind of experimentation. For example, if you look on the JavaScript environment or ecosystem right now, you will notice that, for example, on job offers, you no longer see things like, I want a JavaScript developer or even a TypeScript developer. You see, I want a React developer or an Angular developer or a Vue developer, because the ecosystem has a lot of different competitors, libraries, and frameworks, each of them evolving differently. And that has fragmented the ecosystem in a way that if you are working with a framework or a library, it's very difficult to jump to another one. So if you're a React developer and then you have to change to Angular, or if you're an Angular developer and you have to change to React, it's kind of hard, because even if the concept is the same, you have a framework, you have the shadow DOM, you have the modules, you have the components, the grammar, the vocabulary is different. The way of building things is different. So you have to learn again how to do things, even if you're an expert and you're good at what you're doing. And in Java, there's something similar happening. So if we take a step back, we can see, for example, 20 years ago, Spring was one of the most used, if not the most used already, frameworks to build Java applications. And it was good, everybody knew about it, and everybody used it. And it set up some expectations, some grammar, some vocabulary that has helped other frameworks evolve and being created. But right now, there's a lot of different frameworks, and they are evolving a bit differently. And there is this fear that we get a fragmented ecosystem too. So that can be an issue, a problem, or that can be seen as an issue or a problem, because if they deviate too much from each other, at some point we can get this fragmented state in which the base language is no longer evolving as fast as it should or it could, because everybody is kind of tensing the language in a different direction. So which one it should grow, how it should evolve, which grammar, which vocabulary we should use. And that's not good, obviously. We don't want that. Wouldn't it be possible that there was some common ground we all can have where we can agree on vocabulary, grammar, way of working, concepts, semantics, in which each framework implements those semantics in a different way, but we all have the same concepts in your mind? So when, for example, I say, I want to implement a singleton, and I want to mark this class as singleton, and I don't care how the framework I'm using or the library I'm using is going to implement how that singleton works, or how it's implemented, or how it behaves exactly on a detail level. I just want to make sure this behaves as the definition of a singleton. And, or for example, I have a database, and databases, they have some SQL databases have all some common grounds, like what is an entity, what is a column, what is an ID, how are many-to-many, one-to-one, many-to-one relationships work. This is common ground. This is concepts that we can abstract, and I don't care really how the framework that I'm going to use is going to implement that. I just want to make sure that what I'm doing is behaving as I expect. And if in the future I have to change the framework because maybe I started with Spring, or maybe I started with Micronaut or whatever, and at some point that framework is no longer the best for my use case, I want to be able to migrate to a different framework, and my developers should be able to migrate to different framework without having to rewrite the whole business model. That doesn't make much sense, right? To rewrite the whole business model. And that's kind of the concept for MicroProfile. So MicroProfile is community-driven effort, or yes, community-driven effort, I would say, that tries to, and I quote, aim to merge innovation and standardization into enterprise Java with microservices focus, which means they want to define a series of concepts, APIs, grammar, vocabulary, semantics, abstract concepts that are shared among different frameworks, libraries, among all the Java ecosystem, in a way that I can talk, I may be a Spring developer, but I can talk to a Quarkus developer, and we are talking about the same concepts. And we are, the implementation details are different, but the way our system behaves, or entities behaves, or or injection behaves is the same across all the different frameworks. And that also helps, because if once these kind of things are standard and they work, and the innovation and experimentation is done, and we realize this is the way Java is working and behaving properly, then, well, we can incorporate this into Java vanilla. And then that means that this can become the standard way to implement this or to define classes and objects. And for some of you, you may start to think, well, but this is something that we have already done. This is not something new. I mean, do you remember 1996-7? There was the Enterprise Java Beans, which defined beans, and it was one of the biggest features on Java 6, I think. And it was across all Java, and then each framework could implement their own way of handling beans. And maybe you can say, well, this trying to get some APIs that are common shared. This is Java EE, Java Enterprise Edition. So is this not the same thing? I mean, are you really trying to do this XKCD situation in which you have a lot of standards and then you don't like the standards that are already there, so you create your own standards and now you have one more standard that is not enough for everybody? No, that's not the idea. In fact, MicroProfile has Java EE incorporated. Java EE, which was renamed to Jakarta EE in 2018. So the idea is not to override any other standardization or implementation. It's trying to get together all these APIs and all these implementations. And this is a community effort saying, okay, they are vendor neutral. They are not trying to force anything, but more like, this is already happening in the community. Let's put everything together and let's make sure everything that is already working is known by other people, other frameworks, other libraries, so they know how to implement things in a common way, so we can speak the same language. We are all speaking Java, but the same specific and the same semantics. So this is more or less the idea, and this is more or less the theoretical part. I'm going to get dirty in a moment with some source code and some project, trying to create some MicroProfile code and see if it really works. But what I want to transmit here is that, well, MicroProfile, well, it has been, version 6.1. This is not something that was done yesterday. This has been for 7-8 years already out there, and it's growing pretty quickly recently. In the past few years, you have more or less since the pandemic, there's a lot of MicroProfile whispering around, and more than whispering, this is a lot of talk right now. And you can see that there's a lot of innovative things like the telemetry, the observability. So you can define observability, which is I want to know, I want to observe this function. I want to know how many times it has been called, with which parameters, how long did it take in average, etc., etc. So you can grab metrics. There's also the open API, so you can define APIs in a common way, in a way that you can also document it, so you can create Swagger documentation easily. And the idea is that, of course, it's not going to be completely, your code is never going to be completely agnostic. That's very difficult. But the idea is that we all experiment and innovate together. And the implementation details will be on each framework, and each framework will have their use case, and it will be good for specific use cases, for specific environments, for specifics, whatever you need. But the idea is that we don't fragment completely the Java ecosystem, but everything, all the effort goes together in advancing. So the idea of this talk was not only to, I'm not part of MicroProfile, I'm not part of any of the projects I'm going to talk about. This is an experiment from a person, a regular citizen that is just a Java developer walking around and watching things and not very good at reading documentation, I have to say. I always jump into building things without really thinking about things. But the idea is to present this, and now I want to show you if this is really what I'm talking about. So I decided I wanted to do an experiment and try to explore MicroProfile over these three frameworks, which means I'm going to try to write MicroProfile language using MicroProfile standardization and APIs, write some source code, and see how it behaves in the different frameworks. And as I said, when I saw the call for papers for this conference, I thought, oh, this would be a nice talk I would like to watch. And I tried to search for some papers, some videos, someone that has already been doing this. I couldn't find anyone. And I thought, well, I can do it. Why not? So I sent the paper, and then I realized it was an experiment I was not prepared to do. And when it was accepted, I panicked a bit, and I asked for help in the Java user group from Sevilla, the local one. And well, some people helped me when I got stuck, especially with the Spring part. Spring is, I think, the one that has cost me more time to get it running. And it's because of me, because I haven't touched Spring in 5 years, and all the Spring I have touched is with Spring-specific stuff, not MicroProfile. So I want to mention one person in particular, that was Agustin, that helped me a lot with Spring. And there were other people, but they didn't want their face here. I don't know why. Maybe because they know this is going to get dirty and they didn't want to be on this experiment. Why did I choose these three ones? So I chose Spring Boot because, well, Spring has been the standard for 20 years. If you think about when Java 8 came out, I mean, Spring was out there for 20 years. That's crazy. 21 years already. That's crazy. I mean, there's no country in which Spring cannot drink alcohol, drive, and vote. It's old, but that means it has strong foundations. It has a lot of experts. It has a lot of documentation, use cases. And at the same time, MicroProfile arrives late to Spring Party, which means there's a lot of concepts that come from experimentation with the Spring framework. And it's true, it has shaped a lot of the how MicroProfile works, not because it was a direct relation, but because Spring has defined or innovate a lot in the Java ecosystem, and that is shown. But also that means that MicroProfile didn't copy exactly what Spring was doing. So there are some translations to concepts, to grammars, to vocabulary, semantics that are not one-on-one. And we will see later what that means. But it's not that Spring doesn't have the features. It means that expressing those features using MicroProfile is not as straightforward as it could be, just because Spring has its own vocabulary and grammar and language. Why did I choose Micronaut? Well, because it has a strong relationship with GraalVM. GraalVM is a JDK that helps building with well, it's a different way of building jar files and building Java and compiling Java. So it does things on build time, speeding up and cleaning up the final artifact, and which is very useful for the cloud, cloud native, and microservices. And also because Micronaut is an open source framework, so everybody can contribute, but Oracle is a main actor, or a very big principal actor in Micronaut. And Oracle is also a big principal actor in Java ecosystem, in the definition of the Java language. So that means it's interesting to see how Micronaut is evolving and how it behaves when it has such a close relationship with one of the main actors in the Java ecosystem. I said that Spring arrived late to the MicroProfile party. On this case, a MicroProfile is an important guest at Micronaut party. Sorry, Spring MicroProfile arrived late to the Spring party. MicroProfile is an important guest at Micronaut party. What does this mean? This means that Micronaut follows very closely the MicroProfile specification. Sorry, I'm Micronaut and MicroProfile are two words that I confuse a lot in my head, and sometimes when I'm speaking fast, I just mix them up, but they are two different things. So MicroProfile follows Micronaut follows very closely MicroProfile, but sometimes when Micronaut wants to add some feature that is not in MicroProfile, they add their own annotations, their own grammar, their own concepts, which is not bad. It's a good thing because they want to add over-the-top things on top of what MicroProfile offers. But that also means that if you want to use the full power of Micronaut, you have to add to your code things that are not in MicroProfile. That means sometimes your code is not going to be pure MicroProfile specification, which is fine. No problems here. Just this is a difference. For example, with Quarkus. Quarkus is again open source, but Red Hat, which is one of the main actors in Quarkus, is also another big important actor in the Java ecosystem. And it has been up and about Quarkus the same time, more or less, than Micronaut. And it's again focused on cloud native, Kubernetes, microservices. But the idea and the difference between Micronaut and Quarkus, at least from my perspective, is that Quarkus is more pure regarding MicroProfile. It means it tries to follow the MicroProfile specification much closer. So if something cannot be done in MicroProfile, instead of adding Quarkus-specific stuff, they try to add it to MicroProfile. It's a different way of doing things. Can work, cannot work. That doesn't mean that there's also Quarkus-specific stuff, but you will see that Quarkus is more smooth, I think, or that was my impression. And let's get dirty. I'm going to show you a bit of source code. The first thing I want to reiterate, when I started this experiment, I had no idea if this was going to work. And I'm not going to do any spoilers, but this was completely experiment. So I have here a clean project. It just has this source main Java folder, which is empty, and a POM that is empty. My idea is that I want to have in Maven different profiles. So I have the same source code that is going to do things, and I can use the different profiles to run it with Quarkus, Micronaut, or Spring Boot. And the idea is that the dependencies here are going to be restricted to the things that are shared. And then, well, I have some compiler plugin, but the important stuff will be done here, which is where we decide which framework we are going to build with. So the first thing that we have to consider is we are using Maven. Maven, there is this tendency of saying, okay, I want to build a Maven project. How do I handle dependencies? You can do it with a BOM file, which is, it tracks all the list of versions and dependencies that you're going to need. Or some projects want you to add some parent file, parent element to the POM file. And that is the one that configures your project, which is something that I always find very annoying. And not only because on this case, I cannot add the parent inside the profile. I have to add it out here. So it has to be the same common parent for all the three of them. That doesn't work. But also if your project is inside a big chain of Maven projects with parents and parents and parents, you want to be able to add your own parent, and you can only have one parent. So that's a bit of annoying, but let's see if we can do it. So for Quarkus, which is the first one I have here, Quarkus is very friendly here because they say, don't worry, we have a BOM file. You just add this dependency, and with this dependency, you can add all the dependencies you want, and we will handle the versioning. You can forget about this. Fine. So that means Quarkus do it fine. Great. It's very clean. Then we have Spring. Spring offers you the option to add a parent file, a parent element on the POM file. But it says, okay, but if you don't want to add a parent, you can instead add a BOM like in like Quarkus, and it will work. There will be some things that you will have to add manually, but don't worry, it will work. The problem is Micronode. Micronode, I tried to do the same thing, importing some POM dependency, but I was unable to do it. I had to add some parent. So we have the first main setback here for my experiment. I have to add a Micronode dependent parent here, and I will have to comment and uncomment it when I change from one framework to another. So, but it's fine. We can do it. Don't worry. I'm going to make sure I copy also, yes, Quarkus 1. The Micronode, I'm going to copy some properties too. For configuration, it's just some things, and for Spring, there are no properties. That's fine. Okay, so next one. I want to invoke some service. I want to create a Hello World REST service and see if it works. So to create the Hello World service, what do I need? I'm going to create a new class that is going to be called Hello Service. And I'm going to, yes. I can copy paste this. This is whatever. I'm not on the right package. Yes, move it. So this is using Jakarta EE, which is MicroProfile. And that means that these annotations are common for the three of them, the three frameworks. They should be. They appear here as I don't know what this means because my POM file does not have these dependencies. But once we add it with to the specific profiles, the dependencies, and I build with a specific profile, it will be fine. So I'm copying pasting from, because obviously I don't know this from memory. I'm going to copy the Quarkus dependencies, and you can see that the Quarkus dependencies are very basic, are very clean. I just say I want a REST-DC JSON reactive basic content dependency injection. This service, I just say, okay, there is going to be a path that is /hello, and that will be a get that returns hello from MicroProfile. I need to add some build plugins too for Quarkus. That is specific Quarkus building. And I think we are done. Let me do. Yes, we are done. But I'm going to copy another file here for later. Can I copy? No, I have to create it. Then I will create it later. So if I'm not mistaken, I should be able to run let's put this bigger. If I do Maven Quarkus dev with the profile Quarkus, it should build. Maybe too big this font. And it's in localhost 8080. Hello from MicroProfile. It works. And I just used MicroProfile source code. Quarkus works. Perfect. Now I want to do the Micronaut one. For Micronaut one, I have to add here a file called properties. Maybe I can skip this, but I just use the Hello World MicroProfile MicroProfile Micronaut example, and I just copy paste things. And if I try this right now, and run it, it should not work because it fails. Why? Because we need a specific, well, first, I completely forgot to add the dependencies here. Micronaut, what dependencies do I have? Here, dependencies for the server, Netty, Jackson, log back to log and then I have to add a lot of builds, plugins. Maybe, again, this is a hello world example. Maybe I'm doing too much here. Maybe I could simplify this. I don't know. It will still not work because unrecognized tag build. Muy bien. Plugin. Let me copy again this. No, I did it right. Build is inside the after dependencies. Okay, I forgot the dependencies one. Okay, that was the problem. And it will still not work because Micronaut requires a specific class to be able to run the REST service. If it works, it's a miracle, but it should fail. Does it work? No, because I'm doing Quarkus again. No, this one. Because the parent You see, the parent is already bothering me, and we just started. And if I leave it, it will conflict with Spring and Quarkus. But Maria, you can have a separated project that share the same source code and blah, blah, blah. Yes, but that was not the experiment I wanted to do. So I don't have the main class Micronaut application. Why do I need a Micronaut application class? Whatever. The thing is, I need to add a new directory that is going to be a specific source for Micronaut main Java that contains a class. This is marked as source root. This is a Java class, Micronaut application. Move it to the right package. This Micronaut application, it only says Micronaut run this class. This is not needed yet. This is not needed yet. And now it should work. So what we have done is we have a hello world service that is written in MicroProfile. And if I do this now, hello from MicroProfile. And it runs with the proper Quarkus dependencies, and it runs with the proper Micronaut dependencies as long as I add in the POM file the parent for Micronaut and this specific class. And for Spring, I have the same thing. I have to add on the POM file, I have to add the dependencies in Spring, which is here. These dependencies, remember that we are not using the here dependencies. We are not using the parent, so we will need some versions added manually, but that's fine. And then I'm going to add also the builds. What does this build? We will need also another specific, like the Micronaut application. We need the same for Spring. I'll call it Spring Java. And I'm going to add here a class marked as source root, new class. This is going to be Spring application. And it contains a very similar I call it Spring application. Call it Spring application, not application. So adding the dependencies and adding this specific class, it should work. As you can see, the Micronaut required much more things on the POM file, not only the more dependencies, but also this annotation procession path that do things to be able to understand MicroProfile. But the idea is that once you have all this configured, it works. And Spring, on the other hand, does not have this. It's very clean, as the same as with Quarkus. So if I run now with Spring, not the build image, run. If I run it, it should open also in the 8080. Okay. started on port 8080. If I go here, okay. Why is it failing? Because Spring requires also some application properties, because I'm using the Spring CRXF my head dependency to run the REST service. So an application properties with the REST. Now, so sometimes you need to add some specific configuration, but that's fine because it's not touching the MicroProfile source code. Hello from MicroProfile. So we have the hello world that, remember, is running with pure MicroProfile. So it's the same source code. You can run it on the different frameworks, and it works fine. What do I do now? Well, were we really able to have agnostic source code just for Quarkus? And for Spring Boot and Micronaut, I have to say, no. Maybe I could have used the cowboy guy that yes, but maybe. Yes, but no. But just because you need these specific applications, they are running, which don't really add anything to your business model, don't really add anything to your application, but they are needed there to be able to run for whatever reason. And now we are going to add some database. We are going to add an H2 database to be able to add and remove things. And this is some common dependencies after the parent here. This is a common H2 dependency. So we are going to have an H2 memory database, which we will be able to, whatever, you will find it, believe me, that you will be able to, that we will be able to add and extract objects from it. So we will need some entity definition, which is going to be a cat. And this is, again, MicroProfile source code. I'm going to put it inside a model, a class, and this cat class, let me copy paste. So it's very simple. I just say, you see that I'm still using Jakarta and Java generic MicroProfile annotations. This is an entity. It has a not null column name and ID, and that's it. I'm not going to do anything very complex here. But I will need a database resource here because I need some DAO to repository class to extract and add this entity. And I want it to be a singleton. This is a spoiler. I want it to be a singleton, which I need to add the singleton. Yes, it's here. The injection singleton. So it's going to be a singleton bin that is going to have a persistent context. The persistent context is not specific from any framework, is the Jakarta persistent entity manager. And it's going to have an add cat and a get all cats. Get the list of cats, add a cat to the database. That's it. And then I'm going to create a new service that is going to be the persistence service that is going to just offer some in a different path. It's going to use this database resource to add cats via the REST API or post. I just left the get because it's easier for showing you, and then return the list of cats. And so I have a persistent service I can call via REST API. I have a database resource to handle the model, and I have an entity defined. I should be more or less ready for this. Truth is, I need to configure on the application properties the different database access. So I have didn't copy it properly. I have the Quarkus one, which you see has a prefix Quarkus, all the properties. I have the Spring persistent one, which starts with Spring. And I have the Micronaut one that doesn't start with Micronaut, but it's kind of more generic. So we could think this is a bug or a feature depending on how we want. Do we want to have separated configuration for each framework, or do we want to have a common configuration that is shared among all frameworks? Depends. And on the POM file, we need to add the dependencies that are related to the database. For Quarkus, let's start again with Quarkus because I have it here. I just have to add a couple of dependencies that are, well, Hibernate validator for the not null and everything, and, well, the connector for H2. That's it. I don't have to add versions or anything. We are done. And if I run it, it should work. Let's see. No, because malformed POM were 929. What did I do here? Dependency, why? Yes. What did I copy wrong here? I have no idea what was wrongly copied. But it's working. So now I should be able to have, using only MicroProfile source code, target classes. I'm using Quarkus. I have the parent here that may be a problem. I don't know if this is the problem or not, but I'm going to comment it anyway. I have the Quarkus dependencies, and I have here things. This is no, this here. Okay. I have the application properties with the application properties. Why don't you want to compile? With all the copy paste, something may not be as it should. So that can happen. Okay, now it's running. So if I go to db add a cat, add another cat, add another cat, and I say get all the cats that are there, and I get all the cats that are there, and it works. So I use MicroProfile definitions for the entity, for the database resource, for the service again, and it works. Now let's go with Micronaut. If I go with Micronaut, I have to uncomment the parent. And if I go here, I can add the dependencies. The dependencies for Micronaut database are not very complex, but are a few. A validation API, validations, hibernate, things like that. Not very complex. This is the one of the, I mean, there's many different options. The same with Quarkus. I just choose this one because it made sense, or it seems to make sense. So I can run Micronaut now. And localhost 8080. If I try to get the cats, obviously it's empty. If I start adding cats, I can add a cat, another cat. I can get the list of cats, and boop. Oh, it's not working. Why is it not working? Well, because here I have to add serve import, because I should add a specific serialization annotation to the cat entity, but as I want to keep it completely agnostic in MicroProfile annotations, then I can add it here, which is not the recommended way, but you can add it. So this is one of the things that Micronaut is adding specific stuff on top of MicroProfile that adds more features, but in the end, the result is, well, I have to change things. If I do this, no, because it got stuck, no. Usually, both the Quarkus Dev and the Micronaut run are able to detect changes in the source code and recompile on the fly, but as I'm using a separated source folder, Micronaut gets a bit confused, but it should work in your normal. And well, of course, now it's empty again. Let's add one cat. And now I have a list of cats. So Micronaut is working. Let's go with Spring. If I go to the POM file and I remove the parent, what is the parent here? This is very annoying. And I go to Spring. The Spring dependencies for this is again like Quarkus, just 3 dependencies, very short. Spring dependencies, just JPA validations, Jakarta to be able to detect the MicroProfile stuff. I added on the application properties all the persistence, and this is going to fail because the persistent service node, the database resource, is using here a singleton. And for some reason, this is one of the things that doesn't translate exactly. If you want a singleton using Spring, you should use the add qualifier singleton. I don't remember exactly what was the annotation you have to use, but if you use the singleton annotation from MicroProfile, in some cases it doesn't work, and this is one of those cases. Why? Well, yes, you know, whatever. I tried to read and why the documentation, and in the end, the what I understood is this is nice, but the problem is that for some reason the Spring is not treating, for some backward compatibility reason, this breaks things. So just use name DB resource. And if I do this, and no, don't reload it, don't. And I do the Spring one. I should be able to add cats, etc., etc. Yeah. I should be, but I'm not allowed to. Did I do something wrong? Probably yes. Database resource could not be loaded because DB resource. I don't know exactly what is happening, but we are 5 minutes from finishing it, so I'm just going to skip it. It's just probably me copying pasting something wrong. It worked, I swear. So properties clean, depending on, this is here, are they starting with a prefix of the framework, or are they directly throwing things without the prefix of the framework? Do we think this is a bug or a feature? Depending if you prefer prefixes or not, you will find that Quarkus and Spring have prefixes. So they have specific configuration framework dependent. Micronaut instead throws the configuration in a more generic way. Do I have an agnostic source code for the database? On this case, the one that failed was Spring Boot, because this singleton thing. But mostly it works. The definition of the entities, the definition of the entity manager, all the validation, not null and everything, it was fine. And to summarize the kind of things I have been comparing, yes, it's you can talk, if you are a Quarkus or a Micronaut or a Spring or an OpenLiberty or Tomcat E or any other framework that uses MicroProfile, you can talk to other developers of different frameworks that use the same MicroProfile standard and talk to them and have the same grammar, the same concepts, the same abstractions, and you are able to read their code and understand it, which is not trivial, which is not a small thing. You are able to even test it, and you are able to even modify it and contribute to it. There are minor nitpicky differences, but the main core of MicroProfile, I think it's working. We are able to have a vendor agnostic way of experimenting with Java, advancing Java, innovating Java, and that's a good thing that is helping Java evolve in a way that is not going to fragment the Java ecosystem, which is good. We are still not there. I mean, I completely understand Spring. I mean, Spring has had 20 years in which they had to make up their own path, and just because we changed the way things are, we did small changes on the way we have the same concepts and the same grammar and vocabulary. It doesn't mean they are doing it wrong. It's just that they have to adapt if they want to use MicroProfile. And just to mention that the 3 of this framework, and more frameworks, but the 3 of them also are able to build a native version of this source code, which means we are able to build not a jar, but an executable binary file, which you can run without a Java virtual machine. And usually it's smaller, it's lightweighter, it's faster, etc., because it's not running in a Java virtual machine, but it's a binary, which is something that I encourage you to check. This is not MicroProfile, but it's very tied to, I want to have things in the cloud that are fast, serverless, etc. And this is my talk. I don't know if there are any questions. I haven't seen any questions. I don't know if I'm disconnected from YouTube comments, if there are no YouTube comments, whatever, but this is what I had. I could go back to the source code and do more experimentation, but I think this is more or less what I wanted to show. And this is chaotic. I know.
Thank you very much, Maria. It's been a great presentation. Yeah, we don't have neither time or questions in the chat, but yeah, we are very happy of your presentation because, well, this is, at least for me, one of the very first presentations that I have attended comparing the 3 main frameworks following MicroProfile. So it's been a great talk. Thank you very much. And we don't have time for more. So thank you all the audience, and yeah, see you on the next talk. Thank you.
Bye.